Why don't we just jump right in from there? So when you say you found your passion and everything, I know we have some stuff in common. We did speech tournaments. We both did speech
Yeah,
tournaments.
yeah.
Like, is that how you got into theater? How did you like get into theater, discover this?
Well, I did like my first play in like 7th grade, and it was like this really show. Like I was already kind of like back and forth doing like sports and theater. So I did like my first like play ever like in 7th grade, and it was just like this really like small play, but I just kind of liked being on stage. Like I liked kind of having like people look at me. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like it gives me anxiety, but it makes me feel like adrenaline, almost the same way
Yeah,
people
who
like
doesn't?
roller coasters. I like that's the same feeling I'd have like when I'd be on stage. So I was like, oh. And then the next year, I did a musical. I did The Lion King, and I played like Simba. And now that's when I was like, okay, theater's really fun. Like this is really fun. Like I was like singing and all this stuff, like doing all this. Like I really liked it. I was like, whoa, like I really feel like I'm in like the Disney like show a lot. Lion King. I thought it was really cool. So I was like, maybe I should do this in high school. And then like I would do track and field in the springtime as well, even in middle school. So then I was like, okay, springtime I'll do sports, and wintertime I'll do theater. And so that's kind of what I did in 9th grade. So I did another musical in 9th grade, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and then I also did theater. I did that was my theater, How to Succeed in Business, but I also did track, yeah, also my freshman year. That's when
Yeah.
I did like high jump, long jump, and all that stuff in the springtime. And then in 10th grade, I I like didn't do theater that fall because I was like, you know what? Because my siblings did speech and I didn't do speech 9th grade. And I was like, I want to see if I should do speech and see what it's like. But I could do speech and theater, but I feel like that's too much for me. So I was like, I'll just switch. Let me just try speech instead of theater. And so that's what I did 10th grade, and I liked it like way more. I was like, whoa, like this is cool. Like I've never gotten a chance to like actually perform a piece that actually has an embodiment of somebody that I can relate to. Because like it's like really I live in a really like white neighborhood, and I went to a predominantly white high school, so like no, it was very hard for them to like give material to like to speak to the minorities in the school. And so like I always kind of just played the part that like everyone else would play, but like kind of just tried to fit in, and like it was fine, it was still fun, but it felt so much different when I got a chance to like actually play or perform a piece that like was about a black man, like written about a black person. And I was like, damn, like this is what everyone else is getting all hyped about. Oh, okay, now I get it. Now I
Yeah,
get it.
dude. Yeah.
It's
So
like,
you're like developing. You're like, at first you're
exactly,
going from this like performance, the performance bug bit you, where you're like,
exactly.
I'm performing, people
Yeah,
like me. And then at a certain point early on, I mean, 10th grade is still pretty early on, you get this like, okay, it's interesting to connect to material now.
yeah.
And what does that feel like to mesh the two and yada yada. Um, yeah. And speech tournaments, for anyone listening who doesn't know what those are, why don't you just, in this short amount of time possible,
Yeah.
what is speech tournaments? What are they?
Speech service is basically like competitive performing. Like it's like you do a 10-minute monologue, basically, which is like very, very like daunting for a lot of people, because like monologues like 1 minute, 2 minutes, but it's like a 10-minute monologue that's fully blocked, and you basically have a prelim rounds, and that advance to like a semi quarter round, quarterfinal, then semifinal, then final round, and like you keep working your way up if you make it to the next round, and you can get eliminated after your prelims by judges who are just parents.
Yeah,
But
but
it's still like
they're just
intense. But it's still
right.
intense though, because like and the more you get further along in the tournament, which is like it happened every weekend, the less there would be left performing. So then there'd be more people who got out watching you think, so you beat me, let me see what you're all about. And then you get more nervous. So like it really is a good practice, like really get your nerves out. Because like if you make it to the semifinal round, the entire people that were in the prelim round that didn't make it are watching you. And there's like 6 people, and there's like at least 50 people in the room, and it's like nerve-wracking, but it's also like exhilarating. That's why I love this so much. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it's
really
like
is. It gets that sort of audition bone kind of
it really
growing
is
up
like
a
an
little bit.
audition.
More
Yeah.
than you would think, right? Because like you know what it's like to like walk into a space where
Mhm.
there's some pressure. Some
Yeah.
of these speech tournaments happen, for those of you who don't know, like multiple times per month. So if your school decides to go to like all the speech tournaments, you could be going to 2 or more per month. And then you have a big state tournament once per year and a big national tournament once per year. So yeah, like you get used to like walking into a room or walking in front of people in a space where there's pressure and controlling yourself, focusing in, starting, ending, and then,
Yeah.
it's pretty actually kind of
It,
it grooms you pretty well.
for sure, for
Um,
sure.
all right, so Josh Negussie, everybody.
Hey,
Uh,
what's up?
we are here. We met last year, yes?
Yes.
When you called me. Now you were already talking about, well, let's introduce you first. Why don't you tell folks where you're going to school and we'll kick it off from there.
All right. My name is Josh Negussie. I live in Minnesota, St. Paul area, and I'm going to Rutgers University BFA acting program.
Yeah, let's go. Big time, dude. Big time. Got accepted to multiple top tier programs, triple, quadruple, lot of acceptances. This guy, really proud of him. As I look at him, I can just see the growth that he's gone through. We're going to talk about that here. So why don't you talk about that from the beginning? Like when you reached out to me or us, you already had some experience with coaching, some maybe even college audition prep.
Yeah.
What was it that you were still looking for? Tell
Mm.
us about that journey when you kind of got started with us.
Yeah, yeah. So like last summer of 2020, I like just finished my speech season and I was thinking about like, okay, I need to start getting material for the audition season. So the first piece that I got was a recommendation from my speech coach, which is Pipeline, because he like knew me really well. So that was the one, like, and that's one that I still like rode all the way through the end to this day. And so like I just thank my speech coach for that. But I so like that was like May of last year, 2020. And I was like, okay, I really want to attack this like strategically, organizationally, and make sure that I can really execute this as well as possible and not just kind of like just like do it and hope for the best, but really make myself work as hard as I can because I believe in myself and I feel like I had the potential to like do as good as I could. And so what I did was okay, I got some coaching from like some people like online, Googling and searching and all that stuff. And I ended up coming across your guys' YouTube channel. But it was actually really funny. I actually came across your YouTube channel for the very first time in the summer of 2019. But like I only saw it there. I was like, oh, I have a year until. So let me just like hold on to this. And I kind of put it in my back pocket. It's like it was always like floating in the back of my head. So like I kept looking for other training or whatever. But I really got back on it back in summer of 2020. And I was like, oh yeah, let me like, like go back to the YouTube channel that I saw. That had so much like juicy information about like this stuff. And I went back and I was watching the video. I was like, oh man, that'd be so cool. I'm gonna call them. Like I emailed them. Okay, great. So I emailed you like I think in around August 2020, just to see like what it was like or like kind of introduce myself and see where I was at in my process. I was like really fresh. I only had Pipeline and I only had my contemporaries. I had Pipeline and Indian Summer. And Indian Summer, another like coach like recommended me as well. At that time in the summer of 2020. So I had those two. I had literally no clue about classical monologues. And that's when I was really like asking you. I was like, oh my God, like, please help me. Cause like, I really don't have any idea what that means. And you were like breaking it down for me on the phone. And I was writing down like I was like scansion and okay, all I was like just like going. I was like writing down everything I could possibly get, because I really had no idea about like Shakespeare at all. And I was like super scared about that. I was like, I don't want to have this feeling when I'm in the audition room. I want to like attack this problem now. And so I talked to you guys. And then after that, I kind of I still kind of like did some more coaching, I think in September-ish. And then I kind of just like kept practicing by myself. I did like my pre-screens by myself and all this stuff. And I got to a point where I felt like I was like at a plateau, but it was like, I was good and I like, I could perform my things, but like, I just like knew there's like another level, like, because like, especially because speech like works you so crazy. Like you just know that there's always more that you can work towards. And like, I think like that really made me feel like, especially because of the season I just finished last year, like I like worked so hard on. I was like, if I did that for an extracurricular activity and this is for college, I better freaking do the same thing, if not more, for actual college. And that's kind of the mentality that I had. So I was like, I did not give nearly as much time and energy that I gave to these monologues that I gave to my speech, my speech piece. So I was like, I want to do the same thing. So who's gonna help me get to that level of like that? And then I was like, you know what? okay, I remember like talking to Anthony. He said he's also in speech, so he probably has a good idea of what I mean about like really getting deep into the text and deep into the monologue and deep into these things. And so it was like November too, because like, I can't. It was like a couple of weeks went by, and I was kind of thinking like, should I email him or should I call him, or I don't know, maybe not, maybe yeah. And I was kind of just like debating whether or not what I should do. And then I got to the point like where I was like, you know what, Josh, like just at least reach out and just see where that goes. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what I did. And you responded, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this leap of faith, because you never know if this is like the thing that makes or breaks, which it was. Spoiler alert. I feel like, at least in my opinion, it was like the make or break, which really allowed me to like really take my pieces and monologues to like another, like a deeper level.
Yeah.
And
Let's
so
I want to talk
mhm,
about that. Like, you've hit on so many things that are resonating with. I can remember myself when I was preparing, and like listening to this would have been so helpful, just
yeah,
because what you're saying, taking like the work ethic standard that you have for yourself, you made sure
mhm,
that you exceeded that when
yeah,
you were working on these pieces. Why? Because these pieces are way more consequential than some sort of extracurricular thing. So I love that mindset of just like, this has to be the thing I work the most on, or dedicate the most energy to, is the best way to put it. And so that's a really big takeaway. And also, like when you say like, I'm going to take a leap of faith, right? You were in the sort of like, should I reach out or should I do it? Like
yeah,
there's obviously obstacles with every decision we make that's big. I remember also being in that decision-making process too, when I was choosing my coach. It's like, there were certain things I had to sort of deal with, but ultimately you say, I'm taking that leap of faith. And it makes you go all in, you
yeah,
know?
yep,
And people can sniff that. Like in your audition room, people probably could feel like, this kid's here, he is not somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? And you have that energy, and but that's also because of you, not just because of your natural talent, because you
mhm,
have natural talent. But a lot of people have natural talent. We can't really judge that about ourselves. What we can control though is our work ethic and
work
our
ethic,
our quality of work. And you made sure to try to give yourself the highest quality of work. You worked hard. Um, and that's not common across the board. So give us one tip of like, how do you manage to have a high work ethic? Some people are hesitant to work too hard because they think, oh, it'll get stale,
yeah.
or whatever. Like, how do you quote unquote work hard and feel like you're really giving it your all when you're working on a piece?
Mm. I definitely did have those moments of like, oh, am I overworking these pieces? Because I definitely like did like run through, like, and I feel like actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because what I feel like for me, what I did is like that term of like perfectly like the right amount of working hard. I feel like there really is no certain measure of like how hard you should work. But I think like what I did for myself was like how hard I worked, or like how hard I knew that I was like doing it my very best, was like every single idea or thing that pops into my head of an opportunity to dive deeper, do I take that or do I push it to the side? And so every single time where there was a moment where I was like, you know what, I could like reread the play again, and maybe I think I missed something. And then, or like, now I'll just go do it later. Or like, no, even though I really want to go do it later, let me do it now. Like that kind of like the push and pull thing, like always go with the thing that you kind of like. It's like the self-discipline. I feel like what really helped me. I made sure I was self-disciplined throughout all my decisions. And so no matter, and I didn't base things off of how I felt. I based it on logic and like logistics. If I do more work, I'll probably be better off than how I feel. It's things I never base things off of how I kind of felt, which I feel like is a lot easier said than done. And even I still struggle with this, but it's like that's how I thought about things. Like I'm not gonna base my decisions on how I'm feeling in the moment, but base them on what is logically gonna help me out the most in the long run. If I work on this piece like longer, if I read this play again and try to dive deeper, if I like, take some more time and just like analyzing this certain character and this specific moment of this scene, do I think, is it gonna really hurt me? Probably not. Maybe it would waste time, but I'd rather take that chance, again, the leap of faith, to waste a little bit of time, but or gain another piece of gold to put in my basket. So it's
Yeah.
like just always I always base things off of like that. So any moment that something came up and I was like, I could dive deeper or I could just like push it to the side. I always decide chose to dive deeper.
Man,
So that's kind of
I
what
admire
helped me.
that. I admire that. And that's something I had to learn too. I was fortunate to have good examples in my life at a high school age. So yeah, you know, it really is a decision we make.
Mhm.
Once we become aware of something, we're
Yeah.
at choice,
Yeah.
right? And you're really hitting on something that's very mature. And hopefully you sort of continue to refine as you get older,
Mhm.
which is, you know, your choices kind of create your destiny.
Yep.
So the more aware you are of your choices, the more fulfilled you'll be. And I think the more fortune you will have. You know, some people call it luck, when really sometimes it's just a series of choices you've made that have
Yeah.
plopped
Yeah.
you into a
Yeah.
um
For
you know,
sure.
it's the type of stuff we can't really say yes or no on for sure,
Yeah.
but you want to give yourself the best chance, right?
Mhm.
So you were talking about some gold. You're like, I could invest this time here and potentially find some gold. You found some gold in your process, right? I
Yeah.
remember moments where you just like made your light bulbs.
Mhm.
You grew so much in this process. And why don't you help us understand, like, how does one come across gold moments in
Hmm.
sessions by themselves? How do you stumble across those pivotally growth moments?
Mhm. That's a good question, man. I feel like, well, a lot of the things that kind of like struck me happened during the sessions. I can like, because like that's when I actually had someone else's eyes looking at my piece of work. But what I think really allowed me to like have those light bulb moments, like, was a culmination of me having those sessions, but also making sure that even if I didn't understand what it necessarily meant in that moment that I was told that thing, I wrote it down on a piece of paper so that it was always there. And so that even if I took it out outside of that session, if I was practicing by myself, I could always look back right to the same thing that either you said or Brandon said or John said, and I could be like, oh yeah, I remember. Oh, and then it clicks. And then I'm like, oh, so this is what that meant. That makes sense, you know. But if I didn't write it down, like I have horrible memories. Like in the sessions I'd literally be writing every single thing down you said. And that was kind of part of my like process, which was
Yeah,
like just writing down literally the critiques that I'm getting so that I can be able to just see my piece for what it is. And I feel like, of course, like I know a lot. I like had a little bit of this too, like of like, oh, but I wonder what actually is gonna help me, what's not gonna help me. And what I learned is just like have the humility to just not think that you're right. Because even if you are right, you'll land back on that same spot that you were prior. Even if like a coach gave you or a teacher gave you a piece of advice that didn't necessarily help you as much, even if it didn't, still have that humility to be able to be like, no, I'm going to give this a shot because I don't know shit. That's kind of what helped me. I'm like, I really don't, as much as I think I know things, I don't. And that's what helped me stay humble, helped me stay like, have that humility to be able to always take more, always accept more critiques, more things that could possibly help me. Because at the end of the day, these coaches, these teachers, they're all trying to help you. They're not trying to beat you down or say this or that or like try to like be like, oh, you're not good. It's like their job is to help you. So I always remember like I've been given an opportunity of someone spending their time to help me. I want to do everything I can to be able to understand their point of view and see if that will benefit me or
yeah,
not.
yeah.
That's like
Well,
hmm,
yeah. So what you're kind of saying is like, make sure you just write things down, because
yeah,
we all. It's true, that's scientifically true, that the motion of writing something down, that process of translating
yeah,
from brain to paper, is a kinesthetic thing
hmm,
that helps you learn.
yeah,
That's why taking notes is always good, to like reinforce the learning. So even if you don't get in the moment, write it down so
yeah.
that maybe later you can review it
It'll
and
come back.
have the Josh moment. Oh,
Oh yeah, that's
um,
literally
you know, and I remember, you know, and we understood that about your process. A lot of our students do that too. We allow for that time because we understand you're learning in that moment. And
hmm,
so, yeah, it was great. Um, and by the way, you're right as far as being able to take as much critiques as possible, and critique
yeah,
meaning just notes and feedback,
yeah, notes, yeah,
like, because you're the artist, not us in this relationship, right? So you get to choose what you want to keep and what you want to leave behind. Like what helps me, what doesn't. You're the artist. You get to move forward with that. So we're just going to give you the advice, and whatever resonates with you, you can move forward with. And you did a great job with that, trusting yourself while also being open to new things all the time. And I know I'm kind of going on here. I want to get back to another question with you, but it just illustrates a lot of points, which is because you were able to get used to taking notes and trying them. Guess what happens in the auditions, everyone?
Yeah.
They ask you to change right there in the moment. They ask
Yep.
you, "Hey, can you do this?" Like, tell us about an adjustment that you were given at any one of these auditions.
Oh yeah. I think one of the biggest adjustments that happened was like it was at my like Cal Arts callback edition, and they made me do like some crazy thing, but I was just like fully 100% like I literally don't care if I look stupid. They're like, I want you to be like, "Ah," and I was like, okay, ah, I like just went for it. I was jumping up and down through the room. They're like, good. I'm like, okay, great. They're like, thank you. I'm really glad you're committed. I just went for it. I just didn't care. Like literally just going for 100%. Like just like being like, they said like do more, and then I'll tell you to like dumb down. Like, and I always kind of had that in my mind every time I got a critique, or not critique. I keep saying critique. I don't know why I say, but every time I've gotten like a adjustment, like I would always say I'm gonna try to overdo it. So then they'll tell me to go down, because for most of the time it's like we're always pushing like patting it down and not actually doing as much as they wanted us to see. And even if we do think we're like going like out of the it's worse, it's like really like not, and you're just like finally get it, being able to like open up. And so like I always took that, and like even during my Juilliard audition, I remember like the auditor Evan, the head of the program, like she asked me to like do my contemporary piece by like taking it slower. And like I always talk really fast, which everyone probably already knows this by now, but like I was like really like like doing my piece, like, whoa, I want you to slow down and just be able to like do it one by one and just like say it and wait till she responds. And like I just kind of like just took it. I was like, you know what? I've never done this before, but I'm just gonna go for it. And I did. And like in that, and I kept that with me too, like throughout the rest of the audition process, which is what I feel like really helped me out, which is like being able to like remember. I wrote it down right after the thing. I wrote it down, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what the adjustment was. I'm gonna make sure that the next time that I do it, I'll also repeat that. And so like for all those adjustments, I just made sure to always give 100 and 110%. Like always give more than what I thought that I should give, because that's usually what what I felt like the auditor would want, versus like going to like less than 100%.
Yeah, 100%, 110%.
Yeah.
That's true. And gosh, I mean, yeah, I'm so glad that you're calling upon your experiences to like share this wisdom, because sometimes we share wisdom in like an empty vacuum, like go bigger,
Yeah.
bigger than you think. Well, no, like literally, here's an audition, multiple auditions where, you're asked to do something and people are wanting you to go full out with an adjustment. And like you heard Josh just say, it's not necessarily bigger, right? If an auditor says, "Can you do this just moment by moment?" That means go for it, moment by moment. Doesn't mean bigger. In this case, it meant smaller, but
Yeah.
your attention and your focus goes fully.
Yeah. Your commitment goes full. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were able to do that in our sessions too. Even when we thought, okay, we're going to change direction here, we're going to actually try something totally different, you were willing to like see what that felt like, right? That's an artist. So very fun. So I'll leave it to you. Like, what else is there to share? Like, either you can talk about what happened in the auditions that you think is that was like a light bulb or something that you think is valuable to share, or something about the process in general. What would you like to share?
Well,
I
I
mean,
feel like
go ahead.
I feel like on those like the more auditions that I did, I felt like I got into a rhythm of like the ebbs and flows of like how it went for me. And I feel like that's also really kind of helped me like kind of get used to how it was in a way, but not like comfortably, but like in a way where I knew what to expect, but always knew what to do prior to make sure that I was prepared. And so like it took me a little while, of course, like the first couple auditions that I had, Juilliard was like my second audition, and then I had Pace that next week. And I kind of spread out my auditions like week by week. So each week I had enough time to really hyper fixate on that next audition and hyper fixate on what that quality of that school is going to bring to me. So I could take time to like research it, like actually see how I can picture myself in that program and like just keep practicing my monologues. And that really allowed me to have a process of like, okay, every week I have a new focus, a new program. Like that's kind of like, that was my thing. Like every week I have a new focus. This is the new, I'm going to be auditioning for this school on the end of the week. So I'm going to be focusing on this program this week. And I kind of just like researched a ton about it. I would like, just like think to myself, I'd practice my interview too. Like I would write down like literally not word for word what I would say, but I would write down like what's valuable to me in a program. And I'd kind of have that like literally written out. And then I kind of reread it, and then I just like kind of like toss it away and just talk and be like,
Yeah.
okay, and like kind of like just as if like I was getting interviewed, and like that really helped me a lot. So like when they asked me, why do you want to come to our program, I was just ready to go and ready to be like, okay, I'll tell you exactly the specific details of why I want to come here, the specific details of why I want to be an actor, and the specific details of like what is important to me. And like just having that format down to a T just made like me have a process even throughout the whole audition process, which has really helped me. So like
amazing.
that's something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And I think we talked about that, and I'm glad you kind of like just went Josh on it. Like you were like, okay, cool. Like if they're gonna potentially ask me these 4 questions, like the very
Yeah,
4 common questions are,
yeah.
why do you want to come here? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is it about our school that's different for you than like another school? So why do you want to come to our school specifically? What are your strengths and weaknesses in your eyes as an actor? Like, do you believe you're a good actor in this regard? Where's your weaknesses? And then what is it like about your experience that like what is an experience in your acting life that has like caused you to really commit? Like, why do you want to come to drama school? What's a pivotal experience in your artistic life? And then what else, if anything else, did they ask you?
Yeah, maybe like, do you have any questions? And like I'd always kind of have
Right.
one question too to like ask to like show that like I'm really interested. I don't want to be like, no, I don't have any questions. Bye. Like, like make sure that I actually have something to say. So that was helpful too. Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you just played with that. You practice that. That's preparation. Like, there is no rule to preparation other than
Yeah.
whatever I got to do to feel prepared,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
And with the pieces as well as the sort of non-artistic components, meaning the interview, the entrance, the sort of personal vibes, as with both of them, it's about kind of rehearsing, if you will, but then letting it go.
Letting it go. That's the most important. Yeah. Yeah.
If you start to think, oh, I'm definitely going to do the pieces like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a dead, you're out. And if
Yeah.
you're like, I'm definitely going to say this in the interview, just like that, you're gone. Like
Yeah.
they will sniff that robotic preparedness. But if you go in feeling like I'm clear on my intentions, I know what I'm doing here and I'm ready to play and let it go, right? I mean, do you feel like that's what you did?
For sure. And I feel like with that, it was like the ability to just trust myself, trust that I prepared. Like, because like that all like like having it like written out like words for everything. I definitely have done that at some point, and I remember it not being natural. Not during not necessarily during my audition process, but definitely during like speech tournaments or things like that. Like I had those moments where I was like, da, 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 and like just like, and it just didn't work. So I knew that like it was an whole thing of throwing it away, but not in a way of like, oh, everything I did was for nothing. But it was like I trust that I absorbed all the things and all the good things that I actually put time into, and they're in my body, they're in my soul, they're in my mind. I can just be myself and let myself speak for myself and not hold myself or shut myself like down and
That's
really let myself speak. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You got more towards that like confidence, right?
Mhm.
As we were entering auditions and into those first few auditions for sure. It was noticeable. Um, I want to go back to what you just said too, like because sometimes we have experiences in our past, like with speech tournaments for us, or it may
Yeah.
be anything for anyone. There may be experiences in our recent past that shape how we prepare for college auditions. either in the style of our acting or the way we attack the prep. Like, what did you have, or I guess my better question is, what do you feel is a healthy way to approach auditions that maybe wasn't what you were doing before? Like,
Mm,
do you feel like you had habits before that you had to break?
yes, for sure. Yes, 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 for sure. Like a lot of the habits that I got from speech, like yes, like the hard work ethic was like great to have. But like there were so many technicality parts to it that like I was so speechy. I was just like super upright and like da 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 like and like my hands would be like here, like the bird hands, like that's like what I would do. And that took me so long to even like attempt to break it. Like that just like it was just so ingrained in me because I did it for so many times. Like and so there are definitely things like physicality. I think that was one of my biggest things that like I really had to like really break and like re retrain was like my physicality, my posture, like the movements that I make. I'd always because speech is everything you block, you like say I'm gonna move here during this word. I always thought like that for my monologue. It's like I have to do this during this moment, or I have to say like this and then have this face during this. Like it just didn't work, and like I'm glad like you guys saw that, and it was just like it was really cool to like or challenging, but really cool to finally see the other side of that where it's just like it's just like I can let myself speak for myself and let my body do what it needs to do to communicate what it needs to communicate without me
Mm-hmm.
having to tell it what to do, but letting myself be myself, letting myself express how I feel in that moment. And I feel like
Yeah.
that helped me.
Yeah, that's great. Breaking those habits. I remember one time that was a like awesome moment for you in a coaching session was when it was an Indian summer, I believe,
Mm,
or maybe it was Comedy of Errors, where I'm forgetting the moment. I'm just remembering the physical gesture that you did, which totally unlocked this like organic behavior. You did this, remind me which piece it was where you had this like turnaround.
I think that was Indian summer. Yeah, I think it was Indian
Yeah.
summer.
You had to walk, or maybe we gave you the
Yeah,
suggestion to
to
walk,
walk. Yeah,
and that totally got you in your real body.
yeah,
We're not in this like performance space
yeah.
anymore. You
Mhm.
actually like walked, and this is not a big walk. It's just a one step, half
Yeah,
circle, but it totally dropped your breath in and your body felt more like a human, and I remember that was like, there you go,
yeah.
that was wow, and you really took that and ran with it and you applied it to like as much of the work as you could.
Mhm.
But to get that experience in your body to make you feel what it's like to have that truth, and be able to have a physical trigger that you could, tap, that was so great.
That yeah, I remember that. That was really cool. I remember being like, "Whoa!" Like I don't feel like I'm planning any of this. Like having that.
Right. No man's land.
Yep.
But you felt it was truthful, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah,
You
yeah,
could totally
definitely.
feel it. It was just like, is this allowed? Is this
Exactly.
By the way, I'm looking so I can see myself, very small icon of myself, and I have this light coming in like right here.
Yeah.
So it looks like I'm in like this really warm environment. I'm not. I'm totally comfortable. I know I'm in a sweater, but like I'm in
Yeah.
an air conditioned room. It's just a really warm looking light, so don't worry. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sweating. So, gosh, we could go on forever. Let's see. Talk about, okay, we talked about some big things. How you found your monologues, right? You really found them from mentors.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
found Hamlet by myself. That was like the one that I did find by myself was Hamlet. Yeah, I
Great.
just that one like just like I really it was like a day where I kind of felt like really groggy and I was like, oh, I just want to like ugh. And then I like found that mall and I was like, oh yeah, Act Two, Scene Two, yes. Let me see.
I
And I
feel
like
like,
just
yeah,
took
that you probably connected with that piece on that day because it's like
yeah,
kind of a groggy, frustrated piece.
probably yeah,
No, it worked, man. You had fun with that one,
yeah.
and it was very contrasting. I loved your pieces for you, by the way. I think that one thing that Josh found that was cool. I always like when an individual finds a romantic piece.
Mm,
Josh had a really surprising piece. Not that I don't know Josh to be a romantic or not, but I just when I saw Pipeline, which is just such a gritty piece and a brave piece, and then Hamlet, which is kind of a disgruntled, intellectual piece. Then he comes up with Indian Summer, which is like this vulnerable declaration of love that is like nervous. I mean, it was really such a nice, sweet spot. And that was so contrasting. And did you show that to Rutgers?
That's a good question. I think the two monologues that they asked me for were actually, I did Hamlet and Pipeline actually for Rutgers.
Okay.
I don't think I did Indian Summer. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did Pipeline and Hamlet because like their whole process, I had to like submit a video, and the video that I submitted was like from way back in October, which is before I even got any like
Yeah,
coaching.
yeah.
So it was like, so I was like, all right, they still asked those two monologues, so I should like, also that's also a big thing too, is like you have to be able to mix and match it, like the monologues. Like, do not have a finite order of like, this is, I have to do this first, I have to do this first. I like, you never know what they'll ask this before this or that before that, like, or like these two monologues or these two, like it could be any order. It's like having
So
the comfortability to be able to just do them in whatever order, like, was also really helpful because I practiced that as well. Yeah.
yeah. Well, great. I mean, we've covered everything. I mean, seriously, this has been a packed conversation. I love it. You've been just delivering the gold. What else? I mean, take yourself back for these final couple minutes. When you were like, let's say last year, right, a junior, and you were
Mhm.
thinking about auditioning for college and everything, like, what would you have needed to hear? What do you think is important to share?
Yeah, man. um, I honestly just, I think the main thing that really got me started was just like, just just get just start somewhere, if that makes any sense. Just like, don't think about, oh well, let me start here first, that'll lead me to like, if you just start somewhere and you start where you are or where you're at, like in your community or in your theater at your school, like things will lead to other things, but you just have to start. And the sooner you start, the sooner you can be along your way. And that's what worked for me. And that's what helped me, was like, there's like, even like the way is, it's actually kind of crazy to think like how I found these things. It was just like, I couldn't have planned it. Like I couldn't have planned the things that happened. I just started. I just said, you know what? I'm interested. I want to go to drama school. Let me just start Googling things about drama school. Let me start looking at YouTube channels, and like and then things pop up, it's like just starting. Because I feel like that is like the most, like, I guess, like thing that everyone else would be like, oh yeah, of course. But like, it really is just like starting, because everything starts from that first day that you take that leap of faith to
Yeah.
just start. And I feel like that's what got me to this point, was I just started, and I didn't look back. I didn't go, oh, let me try a different route, or let me try to get there faster. I took it the long way, and I was like, let me just start and get there gradually. And that's what I think led me to quality people, because I took it gradually. I didn't try to find a shortcut or some kind of thing that got me there like quick. I just like, I'm just gonna take the long way and just start from where I'm at and just keep going forward. I feel like that
Yeah.
was,
And you also listen to yourself,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, you just kind of tried everything and listened to yourself, and you kind of let yourself like trust your own inner knowing. Like,
Hmm.
is this giving me what I need?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
Um, I do want to address one thing that, we don't talk about enough. And if you're comfortable talking about it, great. If not, we'll edit it out. But no, like finances play a
Yes,
big part, especially after you get accepted. Let's say you get accepted
I
to
really
multiple,
want to talk about this. Yeah.
both of us got accepted to multiple programs, and finances were something you then have to actually address, because no
Yeah.
longer is it now about prepping your work or getting into multiple schools. You've already gotten all that. So
Yeah.
now that it actually comes down to conversations about finances, tell us about your journey.
Yeah. Hmm. So for me, I during this whole audition process of like college and things like that, I really invested all my time into the audition aspect and the essay writing aspect of like college. And I was like, that is the main thing, and this is what's going to get me even accepted to the school. So like, why should I think about the money part if I'm not even in the school? Which to a degree, I feel like I was kind of right, but to another degree, I left out a really big component that is crucial in the foundation of being able to attend drama school. And and that the thing that could possibly like recalibrate or arrange things that you maybe didn't think that would have happened. And so one of the biggest things that I wish that I did, and which I really want to like emphasize to people, like, and I know it's hard too, because like that's the way the thing that I was thinking was like, oh, that's too much work. But like, apply for scholarships, like apply, like look for scholarships during the fall and new year, like, but especially the fall, because there's a lot of really good big scholarships that are in the fall time, like when you're applying, and the beginning of the new year, like from January to March. That's like the golden period of like applying those scholarships. And I know it's hard too, because you're like, well, if I apply these scholarships and don't put enough time into my audition, and like which one do I put more time in? And I had that whole issue too, which is why I like kind of gave it 100% to my audition. Like, this will, help me out, which it did get me accepted. But at the end of the day, it came back at the end and bit me. And so that's one of the biggest things, because what I really learned was like, if you want to be at the end of this process and be accepted to programs, and you want to pick a program based on preference versus affordability, and you want to have that financial liberty, you have to apply for scholarships, because it forced me to have to pick a school versus on my affordability versus my preference. And of course, I was already happy to get accepted to all the programs, and I was already grateful for that. But have that in the back of your head as well. Like, if you want to be able to actually pick the school you want to go to based on preference versus affordability, you have to have built also an entire thing of like thinking about how you're actually going to pay for college, because I completely left that component out, and it came back to bite me, and it was a very stressful month, let me tell you. But yeah,
I appreciate it. I appreciate, sharing and being brave and sharing your story, because it's not something that's a secret. It's not something that people don't deal with. Most of these families deal with that. And so to hear from someone like you, that advice is powerful. And so, dude, you're going to a top school. Is the bottom
yeah.
line. And
Let's
Rutgers
go.
has so many great components, and you're going abroad for a year,
Yeah, no,
year. You're gonna invite us over there, so we'll go hang out with you.
yes.
Um,
For sure.
yeah, man. So with this, now it's really final thoughts. I'm trying to think. I mean, you've shared so much today. Is there anything else that you would say? We've had such a great conversation. Truly, I'm just wondering, is there anything else?
I would say that if you're watching this video, first things first is you already struck gold, because these should be your coaches. Let me tell you, yes, I may be biased, but you should get coaching from these people that you're listening to right now, because it really, 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 really will change a lot, help you a lot. That's like, so there's that. Second thing is, when this process is very, very hard, and have people, your loved ones, your friends, your family, to support you during this journey, because that really helped me also. Having my family by my side, having friends by my side during this arduous process helped me a lot in being able to have support. And so I really, 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 really lean on your family, lean on the people that you care about, to be there for you during this crazy process, because it really is a crazy process, and it's very long and very, very, very hard. And then the last thing that I would say is like, just don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. No matter how much you don't want to like give up to go rehearse your monologue, no matter how much you don't want to finish writing that supplemental essay for some college, or no matter how much you want to like, you don't want to redo your pre-screen because you feel like, oh, I could have done it better, but I don't want to do it again. Don't give up. Keep going, keep trying, keep pushing. You got this, because it'll end. It'll end. I promise. I really bet it will end, but it's worth it, because it's really rewarding at the end. And so I just never give up. Never give up. That's, I guess I got to end with that.
That's it, baby. Speaking from the other side now.
Yeah.
Josh Negussie, thank you so much, man. That was awesome.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. Yeah. Hope we can have you on more, maybe out throughout your training and stuff. But for now, we'll sign off.
All right. Peace.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.